Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Geek-Stew. And today, guys, welcome back to Horror Stew. That is right, it is Friday. Hope you guys are having a wonderful week. Today, guys, we're going to talk about a new film that actually just recently came out. I say recently, but it was like 2020, end of 2020, mind you. This film, honestly, this was one of those films I watched, and it really stuck with me. Typically, when I do these underrated horror films, I have to watch a movie and I have to say to myself, there's something about this movie that really stuck with me. And this is one of those movies that I watched and it stuck with me. And so I'm going to talk about it today, guys. But today, we're going to talk about the film, The Empty Man. So you're probably wondering to yourself, what is The Empty Man? Well, The Empty Man is a 2020 film. Specifically, the film was, a little bit of details here. The film was originally filmed in August 2017, and then was released in the United States October 23rd, 2020. It had some mixed reviews, some negative reviews from critics and audience alike, but I'm here to tell you guys that I really enjoyed it. I'm going to get into why. So, first and foremost, The Empty Man is actually based on a graphic novel from, looks like it was a Colin Bunn and a Vanessa R. Del Rey. This was published by Boom Studios, which is a comic brand. And then the film, of course, is directed by David Pryor. And some of the actors in this, I'm not going to really go into this too much because I'm going to try and talk mostly about the movie itself. But some of the actors in this is James Badge Dale, Marin Island, Stephen Root, Ron Canada, Robert Aramayo, Joel Courtney, Sasha Forlova. So, the synopsis of The Empty Man is that a man by the name of James Lasombra, former detective, has a friend named Nora. Nora's daughter Amanda seemingly runs away, and Nora and James find a message on the mirror saying, "The Empty Man made me do it." In addition to this, there are some strange occurrences around town. Other teens that are related to Amanda, friends, associates, are dying and having something near them saying that the Empty Man did it. So James Lasombra, on his quest to try and find Amanda and try and figure out what happened with the Empty Man, is led to a institute called the Pontifex Institute. Once he reaches the Pontifex Institute, things start to get a little squirrely, and he goes down a deep rabbit hole of weird Buddhist-like manifestation concepts and self-empowerment and sort of a weird cult-like scenario. So that was just a little bit of a gist in regards to what the movie's about. And there are a couple things that I want to talk about. I want to talk about some pros and some cons, and then I have my final thoughts, of course. So first, we're going to start off with what did the movie do poorly. So what I feel like a lot of people thought about this movie in regards to what it did poorly, because truth be told, I tend not to look at reviews. I sometimes find the reviews are really arbitrary, in my opinion, because ultimately, whether or not I can enjoy a movie is ultimately dependent upon whether or not I enjoy the movie, not whether or not these critics or these other viewers enjoy the movie. So, what I want to kind of say that I thought the movie did poorly is that there were points where the movie was paced poorly. Now, mind you, this is a 2-hour plus movie, all right? So I have no problem with a long movie, but there are situations where we have 2-hour plus long movies that are not paced properly. In addition to some poor timing and some poor pacing, honestly, there was a portion of the film where, honestly, I felt like they could have just cut a lot out. Honestly, this felt like more of a director's cut than it did like an actual theatrical release. And don't get me wrong, I have no problem with some creative liberties being taken and, a certain narrative being pushed. But I definitely felt like this movie was being drawn out way too long, much longer than it should have been. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy long movies, okay? I've watched all the Lord of the Rings movies and their extended editions. So I don't mind watching a movie that is 2 to 3 hours long, but what I do mind is when a movie is unnecessarily long. And don't get me wrong again, the movie was still good in my opinion, but they could have definitely cut a lot of stuff out, and as a fat man myself, they definitely could have trimmed the fat. One last thing that I want to mention is that while I didn't dislike any of the actors or actresses in the film, I definitely felt like there were some very strong performances and there were some very poor performances. I feel like one of my least favorite portions of the movie And also one of my favorite portions of the movie was the introductory portion. And the introductory portion actually takes place in the past, and I think it was like 1995 in a foreign country while they're actually on an expedition, they're hiking. And during this scene, some of the actors are incredible. They portray the characters that they're meant to portray, but there is one person in specific that I'm not going to get into too much detail about that did not do what they should have done. And I'm not pointing figures, but if you watch the film, you're going to know exactly what I mean. And I just feel like that person's portrayal of their character honestly kind of ruined the introduction for me a little bit and honestly set me down a weird mental path. Obviously, I was able to recover because I was able to finish the film. Now, obviously, I've talked about 3 things that I kind of thought that was poorly done in the movie, but now I kind of want to get into what I thought was done very well. Now, first and foremost, the actor that plays Detective James, or former Detective James Lasombra, in my opinion, makes this film. This actor, honestly, is what, in my opinion at least, really pushed the narrative that this film was super realistic and had some super deep ties into what the occult was. He acts very realistically, and in fact, I was able to put myself in his shoes. There's a scene in which he's being chased by a crowd of people, and he gets into his car, and his exact words, I believe, were like, "What the fuck was that?" And he like chuckles, because that's exactly how I would react. I would be like, what in the absolute flying godless fuck just happened to me? And that's exactly what I would have said. So he definitely portrays somebody who is super confused and honestly not really understanding what's going on, but also still wanting to figure out what is going on. Beyond the actor of James Lasombra being a very powerful propelling force and doing what he should have been done, there are other aspects of this film that make me quite enjoy it. One aspect that I really enjoyed was that this film was a mixture of a paranormal supernatural film and a cult survival film in a way. The Pontifex Institute, like I mentioned earlier, eventually we find is just a cover for a deeper cult in regards to the Empty Man. And with that being said, the Empty Man is still a paranormal entity of sorts, and that in of itself makes the movie interesting. But then you also add in the factor and the flavor of it being in relation to a cult or a cover for a cult, which also provides what I would say is a very unique and proportionate film. So when you watch this movie, you're getting a little bit of basically the best of both worlds. You're getting a supernatural film, you're getting a little bit of a drama, but you're also getting a little bit of a mystery film with regards to the cult. And truth be told, you never really find out what the cult's true intentions were in regards to like what they believe in or anything like that. Really, you're kind of left with a feeling of what exactly was their goal, and that's okay. In this case, this film does a very good job of leaving just enough of a loose end that it makes you think, but it doesn't drive you crazy. Lastly, I want to touch on the Empty Man himself. So, one of my favorite things about any horror entity is a good design, a character design, or whatever the case is. And in this case, the Empty Man, we don't see much of him, which is good. The Empty Man is more of a thought, right? But there are certain aspects and portions of the film where we do get a slight glimpse into who the Empty Man is and what the Empty Man is. The Empty Man obviously is sort of reminiscent of a Slender Man-esque character, but honestly takes on more of in my opinion, more of a tribal or in a way a cultish vibe, more than that of Slender Man. That being said, they very well made a character that we didn't see often, but truthfully, we didn't need to see the Empty Man constantly in order for myself or my spouse or anybody who watches this film to be terrified. The mere thought that the Empty Man is there and the Empty Man is always watching is what ultimately drives this film home for me. The Empty Man doesn't have to be up in my face screaming blood-curdling screams in order for me to be terrified of him. In fact, I'm more terrified of what I cannot see than what I can. And lastly, with my final thoughts, definitely I'm not going to spoil this for you. Obviously, as always, with some of these reviews and sometimes with my pros and cons, I do have to give a little bit of detail, but one thing I'm going to slip in here is that the finale of the film and the ultimate climax, when you figure out what's actually happening, is truthfully a plot twist for the ages. This film deals with the concept of manifestation and the sort of weird understanding that is the occult in this case. And the Pontifex Institute, with the concept of manifestation and all of these other spiritual aspects that they're trying to portray and push on you, is sort of jarring in the fact that you're watching this, you don't understand what's happening, and eventually you understand a little bit of what's happening, but there's still so much mystery. And quite frankly, I've never read the comic books, but I would be incredibly interested in reading the comic books and trying to figure out what happened. Because the comic books obviously probably go into a lot more depth than the 2-hour movie did, and who knows, there may be additional movies in the future for The Empty Man, or whatever the case may be. But regardless, it is incredibly interesting, this film is, and honestly, I know that a lot of people didn't like it. You know, like I said, when I looked this movie up on various platforms, Wikipedia, IMDb, whatever the case is, one of the main pinnacles of the description is that this movie was not necessarily critically panned. And I understand why somebody may not like it, but in my opinion, I say watch the movie, think for yourself, and truthfully, I think that you'll enjoy this film, honestly. But that being said, check this movie out. I rented it on Redbox. I'm sure there's other places to rent it, but this movie is honestly something that I feel like anybody could enjoy if given the right motivation. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I wanted to kind of what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to refine my I guess how I do these episodes, and trying to figure out what the best way is to do these videos. I definitely feel like less is more when it comes to describing these horror films, unless I'm doing a really big deep dive into some of these. And obviously there are situations where I do want to do a deep dive, but I also have a tendency to overanalyze and over-explain, of course. But that being said, I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did enjoy, please give us a like and a subscribe. Leave us a comment down below what you did enjoy, what you did not enjoy. And then in addition to that, hit us up on social media. You can find us on Instagram. I always say Instagram, but we don't have an Instagram. God bless America. We have Twitter and we have Facebook. Twitter is @geek_stew, and Facebook is at facebook.com/trythestew, or you can just search us at Try the Stew. In addition to that, you can find me on Twitter at Pint-Sized Beast, or feel free to reach out to us here on YouTube by commenting, or reach out to us on social media if you want to leave us some feedback. In addition to that, if you are interested in joining the Geek-Stew crew, hit us up on social media. Hit me up on Twitter. Let us know, because we are definitely interested in expanding our brand, and we're always looking for new people to create new content. That being said, hope everybody out there is enjoying their week. Enjoy your weekend. And as always, stay safe, stay happy, stay healthy, and keep on growing. We will see you in the next one. See ya.